Hi everyone, my name is Johnny and I am the Conference Manager of Telecoms World Asia. I'm delighted to introduce today's panel, which is sponsored by NexusGuard on the topic of boosting your telco cybersecurity with DDoS mitigation. I can see from my screen in front of me that we do have lots of people joining already, so thank you for joining, irrespective of whether it's morning time or afternoon where you are. We do have a moderator for this session, which is Vinny Nagpal. Vinny hasn't joined us just yet, but I'm sure that he will, as he always does. He's the president of Interglobix, and he will be joined by a few panelists today, including NexusGuard, with one panelist from Far Ice in Iceland. We have another panelist from Norske in Norway and Truephone as well. If you have any questions, please do post them in the Q&A box that you should see on the bottom hand side of your screen. And what I will do now is I will ask all four of the panelists to give a short introduction of themselves, starting with Bjorn Vik from Norske.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bjorn, difficult name, but Bjorn Borg stole my name. So I've been working in Telco ISP business for 15, 20 years. The past 5 to 10, I've been moving that kind of knowledge into real estate, where we have a product for wholesale and clean pipe. So what we do is we're partnering with a major security company on firewalls and all that stuff, and we're looking now to add on some measures, and among them DDoS protection as such, that we see an increasing challenge on. So that's basically me.
Brilliant, and I'll pass the next baton to Federico Diaz from Truephone.
Hi, good morning. So my name is Federico. I'm currently the Chief Security Officer for Truephone, and I've been working on the telco and then IT and IP network technology markets for 25 years, close to 25 years. And I work for Truephone. Truephone is a mobile virtual operator, and we are heavy MVNO, and we operate out of 9 countries. And yes, our focus on security is, as you can imagine, extremely high. And we operate in the B2B business pretty much, or almost only B2B. And we, yes, great focus on in this area. Yeah, and that's about me.
Perfect, thank you. And now Vardis Weinson, who's the CEO of Far Ice.
Hi guys, nice to meet you all. My name is Þorvarður or Varði Sveinsson. I am CEO of Far Ice in Iceland. Far Ice is a company that provides international connectivity to and from Iceland, focusing specifically on Europe, working as a carrier into the wholesale market. But I've, over the past decade or so, worked with the largest enterprises, the telco enterprises here in Iceland, or the service providers, on management and board level, and quite familiar with the issues that we are dealing with today regarding cybersecurity and the impact on business strategies. So delighted to join the panel on that.
Brilliant. And finally, I will pass things over to Donnie Chung, who is a product director at NexusGuard. And I believe Donnie as well will kick us off with the first topic of this webinar as well.
Thank you, Johnny. So hi, everyone. My name is Donnie. Like what Johnny mentioned, I'm the Director of Product and Marketing at NexusGuard. And we are the sponsors of today's panel discussion session. Myself, I've been in security for past 20 over years, and we're focused in cybersecurity for the last 10 years, specifically into the protecting our customers from cyber attacks such as DDoS and the other kinds of threats we see out there in the internet world. So today, this session, I would first like to welcome everybody and thanks everyone for spending time and then joining us in today's session. And we are very pleased to have been able to invite experts from different parts of the world. I see we have from Iceland, we have from Norway, and we are very excited to have this session. I think if Vinay was to join in, okay, he would have kicked off this session, but I'll do this now, kind of like impromptu. So pardon me if I seem a bit disorganized. So basically today's session, what we have wanting to achieve is to take a look at the industry as it is today. Okay, specifically, we're talking about telcos and communication service providers. You will hear this term CSPs being mentioned, which is an abbreviation for communication service providers. And we are going to talk about the need, okay, in today's world, in this post-pandemic world where availability of the internet has become even more important. The need for the industry to incorporate cybersecurity at the center of every business, okay, and this is to be part and parcel on every business life. And with the telcos being digitizing and trying to transform their business, how they are able to align their transformational goals with the cybersecurity services, and how with their investments in these technologies and this new infrastructure growth, the implications for these CSPs and for yourselves as an audience of not having the capability and the ability to do so at large. I think I will first begin this session with a basic introduction just to get everybody on the same page. Some of you all might be very familiar with what DDoS are. Some might be new to DDoS, but generally speaking, I'll start with going through how DDoS have evolved over the last years, okay, in specifically to the CSP world at large. So there are a couple of ways we can actually look at DDoS attacks. And I think in the market, one of the most common metrics that people will actually describe DDoS would be by its size and it's by its complexity. So as we look over the past 10 and 15 years, it's really like a stock market, right? Like the electronic traded funds, right? It's very straightforward. As more contents are being consumed over the internet, as our TV went from 640 to 480 to the 4K and to 8K, there are more and more contents being delivered over the internet because our backbone, technology is improving, backbones are increasing. So right now, 400 gig backbones are now becoming the norm, where some areas are still trying to catch up to the 100 gig backbones. And of course, with the amount of IoT devices being increasing exponentially, and I think recent researchers by some providers estimate that there's about 50 billion connected devices on the internet right now. And then personally, I mean, I just bought a third iPad for my family just recently because my daughter used that for home-based learning because of the pandemic. We are now doing a lot of home-based learning right now. And I was just doing a very quick count. And then at my home, in my own personal home, I have more than 20 over devices connected to the internet. Okay, so that's just me alone. But I digress. So simply put, with the amount of these devices out on the internet today, okay, this means that as an attacker, I'm much happier today because I have more resources at my disposal. I have more devices out there that is, in Beyond's work, logged in with the default password admin/admin. You'll be surprised at the amount of things you can log in with admin/admin, right? So if all these resources out there readily available for attackers, to actually take over and create their own botnets, or maybe subscribe a botnet or buy a botnet with PayPal or with cryptocurrency, the attackers are now able to launch an attack, which is easily in the hundreds of gigs. And terabit attacks are now not uncommon. We have heard of a few terabit attacks now. And I think in no time to come, terabit-based attack is going to be the norm. So from a size perspective, it has always been an uphill growth. Okay, so for the past 10, 15 years, it's now very common. Okay, a few 100 gig attacks are what we see on the NexusGuard network every week. Very, very common nowadays. The other thing that we talk about when it talks about the how attacks have evolved would be on the sophistication perspective. So from a sophistication perspective, attackers, apart from taking the abundance of resources to their advantage, they are now also coming up with innovative attack strategies. Okay, they're consistently looking at new things to exploit, new weaknesses, new vulnerabilities in design. Okay, coming up with new attacks to attack specific industries. For example, in the communication service providers industry, they have created new kinds of attacks that is just designed to fly under the radar of a particular CSP's detection capabilities, and the CSPs don't know what hit them. Okay, there are a lot of these kind of attacks out there in the market, and attackers are always continuing to do this, and we are always trying to catch up with them, trying to come up with the new ways to mitigate this new attack. And I think this is going to continue to happen. And I think the world by now, okay, is already used to the issue of DDoS attacks, and DDoS attacks is common. So just last month, I think early September, we also read some news in New Zealand, in a very quiet part of the world, very peaceful nation. One of the Vocus telecom groups was taken down by DDoS attacks, but not because they are not prepared for it. So they invested in the specific technology to mitigate themselves against DDoS attacks. But because of the complexity of the attacks or the inadequacy of their technical staff, they were unable to make full use of that equipment. And therefore, as a result, the telco and the ISP went down because of that DDoS attack. So these are the kinds of stories that we have been seeing a lot. And I think the point is, when telcos suffers the DDoS attacks, it's not because they are the ones that are being attacked. A lot of times, it is the CSP's customers that are actually the eventual target. But because the service providers is in between the attackers and the enterprise user, so they are the ones that goes down first, and they become part of the problem. And the users will now complain and shout at the ISPs and saying that you should have taken care of this product, you should have taken care of this problem, which brings us to the next topic, which is often the dilemma between CSPs and end customers. So from an end customer's perspective, they would argue that since I'm buying the connectivity from the ISP should be the one that's providing this. This is part of the implied service. Okay, you should provide the availability. I don't care whether it's a DDoS attack or it's a DOS attack or it's a human error. You should take care of this. But from a telco perspective, this comes at an extra cost. I'm providing the pipe. Okay, there's caveats. There's cost of business. We won't be able to do this. So the dilemma has always been this tension. Whether it's a part of the ISP's implied product and why is the customer's product. But I think today it is very obvious that in tenders for services, in government bids for services, the DDoS protection, the cybersecurity aspects is now often a very critical requirement for all this. So I think which leads me to this question. I want to go around the table, okay, and then open up to the panel. My question is this. What do you think telcos have? What kind of roles does telco have in protecting their end users for attack? And then from your perspective, why you think your answer is what it is? What are the challenges and what are the enabling factors that telcos, ISPs in your position can deliver DDoS protection or other cybersecurity services for your customers? Maybe we can start with Federico.
Sure, Donnie, thanks. So just taking your question. So the challenge there, I think, to begin with, is that the CSP or the ISP, we all have two challenges, right? First, we need to protect our infrastructure, and then we need to protect our customers. And on top of that, which maybe you didn't touch on as much, is the interconnect in between the ISPs also gets hit by DDoS attacks every day, and that even makes the effect of the attack amplified over what. So you're targeting a specific customer, right? A specific enterprise usually, or a service. But then if your DDoS attack is large enough, even the peering points get so much traffic that you affect the speed of the internet for a whole country, sometimes a whole region, and people just got used to it, right? Sometimes your internet is just slower and you just don't realize why, but a lot of it is due to very large volumes of attacks just happening all the time. So the role of the ISP there, I would say, is twofold: to protect itself first, because you need to protect all of your customers, and then you need to protect the customer that is actually targeted, right? And there is a shared responsibility in between the two, right? Because the customer has to protect itself, but of course the ISP also has to protect all customers and that customer in specific. And I would say the challenge there is, first, you need to justify the amount of investment to be able to put the protection layer farther away from the customer as possible. So very close to your own network, and if possible, outside of your own network, because you don't want the volumetric attack to even get close to your network or your peering points or even your top level peering points. So I think we've all been through this. How do you communicate in between CSPs to stop DDoS attacks closer to the source? Not easy. So as you would explain, there has to be other options to push out the protection. But yeah, I think that's the challenge. I agree with you completely, and it is a shared responsibility. I'm not sure that an ISP does, when you discuss with the customer where the share of responsibility lies. It's not easy, is it? Because like you said, you expect your ISP to protect you, even though it's your own service that is getting attacked and not the ISP. So that it's quite a challenge. I don't have a full answer for that, but I think it must be a bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, we maybe can hear from the Vadi as well. So what Federico is saying is, ISPs, ideally in a perfect scenario, ISP A and ISP B should work together. ISP A, I have a peering with you, right? We exchange traffic. Make sure the traffic that you throw to me is free from DDoS. I mean, that would never happen, right? I mean, in the ideal world, that would never happen. So I don't know. So end of the day, it's up to, I think Federico brought up a good point. I think we all agree, because we are delivering a service to our customers, that it should be usable, right? There's a minimum viable product of an internet connection, means that it has to be usable. So to a certain extent, we have to protect our customers. And Federico brought up the issue of cost. And this cost is probably something that is often underestimated, because the cost of delivering a service, and then we have an informal conversion. Bjorn is saying that, in Europe, there's now a severe shortage of cybersecurity professionals, people that know how to do it. And these people are very expensive. I mean, it's a good time to be great at cybersecurity now. Nowadays in this world, it's a great time. If you have a study in this, I think you're gonna do good. But so human resource is gonna be a big cost. Technology is gonna be a big cost. Okay, and then the business cost is gonna be a big cost as well. So overall, I think how to balance that cost into something that the customer can accept is going to be a big challenge. So yeah, so I think this will also bring to the next question. How do we design a solution to make sure that you have a balance of cost versus SLA, and then obviously to match that with the expectations? So I think I think beyond, if I may, I believe in our conversations, North Network actually has a vision that you believe that this kind of responsibility should be the providers, because obviously, security is not for everyone, especially the non-tech industries, real estate, retail, the mom and pop stores, logistics. So from a value perspective, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. Where we've been, again, I've been playing around for a while, and as a Norwegian, we were early movers and DDoSers. So DDoS came from this region. We were idiots. But at the same time, the know-how, and like my friend from Portugal was saying, is like, where is this? So an ISP, they buy capacity from tier above them. They peer. You have international IXs, you have national IXs. So I'm not so afraid for the national ones where you can actually call a friend and say, hey, control this. But from outside the networks and through the international IXs or the tier ones that actually sell capacity. And when we're talking about tier ones, I'm talking about the Lumens, the Telias, the Colts, the Cogents of the world. And all of these have kind of products for DDoS that you can sell to the ISPs. The challenge is, like you said, it's bloody expensive. So again, what we've been doing now is I am trying to build a company which is based basically on how can we, out from a wholesale perspective and a wholesale operator, move towards where the smaller medium enterprises actually sit, and that's within real estate, office space, and that kind of stuff. And again, it's a complex world. It's just not clicking on a web browser and here we go. And more is getting online. It's reputation. You have a web page out there that is your face to the world, and you may have web shops and all that stuff. And we're not entering the world behind that web page. But even so, if this goes down, it is terrible. And the willingness to pay for security is close to zero. It's like insurance. You know, insurance is nice to have if shit hits the fan, but hey, if you don't have that accident, why buy it? So what we've been doing is we have a product called Clean Pipe where we actually take the responsibility. I have the tech staff that is really skilled. We know what to look for and we know how to protect ourselves. And how can we move this by bundling together with our partners, which is industry leading companies that only focus on different areas of security. I am not into the bigger, larger ones that sell you everything, because when you open the hood, you have a Volvo engine in it and a Mercedes. It's not what I'm looking for. I am looking for companies that actually can focus and say, okay, we are premium in this field, and we acknowledge that others are covering others areas. So what we've been doing then is playing together with them and presenting this to our customers, which is pension funds that invest in real estate. And they're what are they after? They're after yield. Yield comes from tenants paying lease. And what is happening inside an office space is that you need some connectivity and you need some access point, you need some firewalls, you need all that stuff. And then suddenly you need some tech people. And what we're talking about in this conference call or this seminar is not IT. This has nothing to do with IT and machines and all that stuff. This is serious core infrastructure coming from the telco business, where you automate, you cut costs, and you bundle together so that the end user gets a product. Like I told you guys, you click on an app and everything is sold. We need to get there. And DDoS is part of this game. And looking at some of this, articles around and looking at the large movers in the business, you see that they are now taking this as serious as they used to do on mail some years ago. Email, when suddenly Google and Microsoft sat down around the table, where the hell did the spam go? Somebody talked to each other. And I think what we have to do in this game is talk to each other. And we won't cope with this if we can't help. And that means, where does DDoS come from? It's most misconfigured machines around. Somebody owns these IP space. Okay, looking at RIPE in Europe, they are really seriously into who owns what IP space, and you're actually responsible, especially on IP version 4. And again, I think what we've been doing is, okay, I take all that bullshit on the back, and then I present for my customers as a pension fund and as a family offices and families with a lot amount of office space that they lease out, and we bundle this together so that there's a clean pipe into this building for all these customers. And like I told you, Donnie, I am going to look further into your product. So this is on top of what we already have. So again, there's layers here that you have to do.
I agree. I think we share a common theme of simplifying. So I wanted to go back to the part about you saying that they want to pay $0. So a lot of our customers, we see that, right? So when it's not, when the problem is not at their door, they don't have a budget. But when the DDoS hits them, okay, suddenly they have a budget, and the budget is usually, they give you a blank check, right? So you fill out the form, solve my problem. But anyway, that's part of the whole what insurance business is about anyway. So I wanted to move on from this point. So I think so. I wanted to divert this question to Vali. So, as a provider of data connectivity and very premium connectivity to your customers, what is FarEye's approach in this aspect? How do you approach this cybersecurity DDoS problem? What is the company's strategy? How do you envision FarEye becoming a managed security service provider? How are you going to enter this game, and what propels the company? What drives them? Anything that you can share on this aspect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So FarEye, as I told you in the opening, is effectively a carrier's carrier. So we are providing wholesale international connectivity to the Icelandic carrier. So our approach is quite, to be honest, quite neutral in this area, but we can be advisors and so forth. But I would actually like to kind of go a little bit back to what the previous panelists were discussing on the business model, and the issue with the enterprises that we as enterprises have, or as operators have been dealing with over the past decade, is the price erosion in the market, and basically the expectations of our customers, the enterprise customers, that prices continue to drop, and we provide everything, and including a clean pipe without any additional cost. Now, I believe that this expectations has run its ground. This is not a sustainable strategy for the operators, and I believe that our customers are starting to realize that, because you cannot provide basically a very tailor-made solution, security solutions as needed to protect against DDoS attacks and other security threats as a kind of wide kind of one solution fit for all.
Oh, yeah.
That's one issue. So effectively, what operators have to do is they kind of have to develop, and they have to also not be afraid of stepping out of the game and providing more higher end SLAs. And as we were discussing kind of in the discussions before this panel discussed, is that the issue is that decision making on enterprise level on networking is often taken on a kind of low level discussion within IT departments and so forth. The security risks of today have raised the issue of the enterprise hierarchy up to executive level and often up to board level. And this actually creates an opportunity, I believe, for the enterprises to start to sell really value add, to kind of try to break out of the price erosion trend that we have been dealing with over the past decades or so. And this is a challenge, because this means we are changing the discussions that we're having with our customers, but this is also an opportunity. And I believe this is the way forward, and I believe that the DDoS attacks and security threats are becoming so common, and they're becoming so disruptive on these normal businesses that our customers are starting to get aware of that.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Vadi. So I think Vadi brought up. It reminded me of a scenario which in our experience talking to the CSPs around the world that we often see. So from a CSP's perspective, the evolution is always like that. They see a DDoS attack, okay, and then they acquire technology off the shelf. They pay millions of dollars to acquire technology, and then they put into the network, right? And then they get the technical part of it solved. They solve the network issue, protect the infrastructure, like Federico puts it, protect the infrastructure. And then comes along a very important customer that says, hey, I'm willing to pay for such a service, right? And then Federico, being the network guru, he will put together an elite team of personnel. Okay, and since we already have this XYZ technology, let's put up something ad hoc for this customer because it's paying us top dollars, right? So they create a service that is catered for these particular customers out of whatever appliance that they have. And then comes along second one and a third one. And then they realize that this one consumes too many manpower, because you're very expensive engineers, people like Federico and beyond, they don't come many, right? So it's hard to hire specialists like that. And the solution cannot scale. And then when the product team comes in and say, hey, Frederick, this product that you have is really good. Can we productize it into something that you can deliver en masse to maybe my medium enterprise and even maybe my small medium enterprise, then that becomes a whole new product altogether. And then you go into the rabbit hole where your product manager now comes to tell you, XYZ, our competitors is selling this, like what Buddy is saying. The customer expects free of charge. So can you come up with a model? So now the engineering team and the product team is now put into this situation where they can't create a product. They have essentially dug a hole and presented a solution which is not scalable. So this is something that we've seen across a lot of our partners. And what we've essentially we've done with our partners is we have been able to create products, right? Pre-productized products in multiple layers. So we've been able to share our experience with our customers in how to layer and cut out the services, exactly like what Buddy said. Okay, there's going to be the VIP segment of the markets, which requires high touch services, high SLAs, with a very deep understanding of what they want. So these are the people that operate their own infrastructure. They have their own security team. They might not be just buying from you. They'll be buying from different vendors because they want a breadth of defense, right? So these are the customers that know exactly what they're doing. So this is the high-end market. There's the middle-end market, which might be the small medium enterprises, okay, but they might not be exactly sure what they want, but they have an objective. So you'll be able to create something that is in between. And of course, there's going to be the lower tier customers, which is the mass market. So you have to deliver something, which is what maybe what Bjorn was mentioning about, create something that is easy for them to accept. Okay, so now after you create all these three packages, comes the next problem. How do you teach your sales staff to sell? I think that is going to be another bigger problem because if you are trying to teach telco ISP salespersons to sell managed security services, I think you're gonna be jump off the cliff, if I have to put it that way. So training telco salespeople to sell managed security services is not gonna happen. So that comes another problem, which I think will be another session. But I think it was interesting to hear Buddy mention that part, which I wanted to actually touch on about. So to veer off topic a bit, while Bjorn and Buddy is more on the CSPs, Federico from Truephone, they are more a wireless operator. So for the audience here, okay, as a mobile wireless operator, they face totally different set of challenges. For North Network and for Buddy Farais, where they serve B2B in the sense that people have content, customers have content and transfer data and a lot of contents, right? Truephone majority predominantly operates in the wireless mobile sector, with all the customers. So their usage is different. The problems that they encounter on the DDoS is different. Is DDoS consuming their networks that actually affects mobile experience? So they're different. Their kind of use case is a bit different. Federico, would you like to share your experience as a mobile operator and your challenge when it comes to DDoS?
Sure. So actually Truephone sits in two different markets. On one side, we are a mobile operator, as like you said, a normal mobile operator. On the other side, we are a software business, and we sell actually security related products. It has to do with eSIM and remote SIM provisioning. So they are very security oriented, and of course we do have tailor-made solutions, and they use different approaches to anti-DDoS. But on the wireless business itself, so usually the kind of customer that we have, they are usually large enterprise or medium enterprise, but usually large enterprise, and they usually have their own protection, and they don't use our service for their connection to the internet. But at the same time, they invest quite a bit on protecting their mobile users, because in the last 2 years we've seen that mobile users are everyone all of a sudden, right? And so we've several times we have looked at how to try and package DDoS, and not only DDoS, web filtering and anti-malware and all that into a pipe as well, just like Bjorn was explaining. Over a mobile service, it hasn't been that easy. But so what we do is we still protect the infrastructure a lot, and we end up protecting our customers because they are behind our infrastructure. So we do protect them as a whole and not as individual customers. But of course, the objective, business-wise, would be to be able to resell that to individual customers, where individual is not one customer but a company. And that's something we've discussed a lot, and we're still trying to work on what kind of product that would mean. But like Bjorn was saying, that is also something I would like to discuss with you, because I'd like to know better and the possibilities. But yeah, we don't have. So we still protect the infrastructure a lot as a whole. The whole communication setup and the whole and our internal infrastructure. And of course, we'd like to move to more and more protecting individual customers. And I do see that bundling this kind of protection into even a mobile service, where you tell your customer, look, I'm going to protect all of your mobile users from malware, from DDoS and all that. And what I give you is already a clean pipe, like Bjorn calls it. And actually that I worked for a company here in Portugal, an ISP, selling such a solution maybe 15 years back. Yeah, maybe even more than that. And that, as you can imagine, it was extremely expensive to set up a solution for way back then for a clean pipe kind of solution, because it was all bespoke, right? And you would create a solution for a customer, where usually a customer would be very large, but still everyone had its own implementation, right? And one thing that is still to me a challenge is even if we do protect our individual customers, and let's say we are able to have a really good investment and really good product, but then it means that we must have a security operations center, right? And we don't want to do that. We need to offload that service or that capability to someone else, because it's not. How would a company, most companies or most CSPs, do we want to scale security operations centers to the point where we have tens of people just doing that? Because I understand that we protect ourselves with a security operations center, but are we going to be able to protect individual customers and see events happening, live for each customer? I don't think it scales that way. It needs to be more of a, doing for all of the customers and with partners.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point you brought up. So I think I think Bjorn was laughing when talking about clean pipe. So I believe he will be contacting you. He will have some solutions to suggest to you. You can pick up some pointers from Bjorn, maybe buy some services and stuff like that. But I think we all share the same topic here. We believe that it is very apparent that there is a market out there, right? These customers that are already, customers of TruePhone or FarEye and from North Network, these customers that buys core services from us, there is a very strong opportunity for increasing the average revenue per unit, okay, through new services that we create. The challenge is, how do we create? So I wanted to talk a bit about cost. So we heard, Bjorn, Federico, and Buddy talk about cost. So I wanted to spend a bit of time here to actually crystallize from a scientific perspective where the cost comes from. So there are a few kinds of costs that is associated with building or delivering a service like what you mentioned, a clean pipe or DDoS protection. The first is what we call the cost of technology. So cost of technology is significant because with DDoS, with cyber attacks, okay, it's not just DDoS, it's a lot of cyber attacks, hacking, we talk about HTTP filtering and stuff like that. All these technologies are all individual technologies, and it can be very costly to maintain. And it's not going to be a one-time purchase. Attackers are consistently evolving. I mentioned earlier, they get sophisticated, they look for new patch vulnerabilities. So the cost of technology is not just a one-time cost. It's a consistent maintenance and upgrade, okay, following, and then of course, constantly making sure that your technology is up to standard to be able to deliver that thing. And that can be a very, very heavy cost to take on upon. And that's just for one technology. Imagine if you are trying to build a full scale of managed security services, you're going to buy different kinds. You have to buy application firewall, you have to buy filtering devices, DNS protection and stuff like that. You put it all together, and then you have to try to piece them together into a controllable and automation. So all these are going to be very costly. The next cost would be the cost of protection in terms of cloud, in terms of infrastructure, because DDoS is really a cost game, right? DDoS, when you talk about traffic size, you talk about gigabits per second, it's all about how large your infrastructure is, how much bandwidth you have. This bandwidth are the lifelines of an ISP. This bandwidth is what ISPs use to convert into revenue. But when it comes to DDoS, you have to have access capacity to be able to take on DDoS. So the ability to deliver managed security services with your own infrastructure means that you have to set aside a big part of these resources, reserve it for DDoS, and don't sell them. And that becomes a cost consideration. So the amount of protection you can provide to your customers will directly equate to the cost that you need to incur to actually build up the infrastructure for your customers. So are you going to deliver a 10 gig protection to your customers? Are you going to deliver a 50 gig protection to your customers? Are you going to deliver 100 gig? The answer is never going to be enough. Like I said, the attacks are now in the terabit range. So are you going to be able to provide a terabit attack protection for your customers? I mean, the economical answer is no. No CSP in the right mind will dedicate 1 terabit just to protect against DDoS attacks. So that's where economies of scale will have to come in. So that's the cost of protection. The third cost is what we call the cost of operations. This is going to be large because in order to be able to deliver, although it's what Bjorn said, insurance service, okay? When it is peacetime, usually the customers don't really bother you. But during an attack event, okay, the involvement and the engagement is very, very, very serious. There's a lot of constant communications. The amount of time and effort that your team spends to help these customers overcome and to generate all the incident report and stuff like that is very, very intensive. So to be able to build a team, okay, a 24/7 team that understands the technology, understands the process, understands attack, and then understands your customer, and the whole process is going to be very, very tough to build up this operation cost, to maintain this operation cost, to protect them against the competitors trying to poach your engineers. You spend 10 years training up your security operations manager only for him to be poached by another multinational ISP. So this is very common to the market. So that's cost of operation. And then last but not least is what we often overlook, which is the cost of productization. So the first 3 costs has to do with the network teams. The fourth cost is the cost of production, is usually the business team. So after you have this technology and this capability, how do you then go to market? How do you design? How do you design the packages? How do you design the SLAs? How do you design the product specifications? How to price it? How to actually communicate to your customers the value of your product? How to go to market, collateral creations, how to do your social media marketing, how to train your engineers, rather your sales engineers, how to train your operations to interact with the customers. So all this productization is another art by itself and usually taken on by the product team. Now, we know product team and technology and the engineers don't often see eye to eye. The engineer team is like, hey, don't touch my network, okay? This is how I design my network. Don't tell me what to do, okay? Don't tell me how to run my network. Product team is motivated by a different matrix. I need to have product diversification. I need to increase my product portfolio. I need to increase my P&L. So these 2 departments, how do we actually get them to talk together? Okay, so that's another cost. So when all these costs are considered, okay, it becomes a big problem for CSPs. So eventually, they will say, you know what, like what we were talking about, why don't we just get another company and we just resell their service and then we just forget about it. We just let go of the margin. But of course, each has its pros and cons. What I'm trying to say here, it depends on it's really a top-down approach. It has to be driven from the business side. Like what Bjorn is saying, it's not a technology problem. It's really a business problem. It's a market problem. It's a revenue problem. It has to be driven from the executive team that has the foresight to say that if we are going to continue doing what we do now, stay on the layer 2, layer 3 services, okay, and don't transform, don't improve ourselves, eventually we're going to be taken over by the OTT providers, the MNC customers, companies. We become a provider of pipes. We become a provider of commodities, okay, and we let other new up and coming businesses, create a layer and to deliver a service to the customers. So I think in our position as executive, we have a responsibility to actually communicate that to our executive teams to make sure that they understand the cost involved. And then, of course, how are we going to present them a simplified version that they understand? Okay, so I think that's also one of the topics. Maybe beyond, if you, I see you nodding away, if you have any experience, maybe you can advise. I'm sure there are a lot of product managers and product persons in this audience. How do we convince the executive of how to push forward a product? How do we convince Federico that this particular technology is viable and that we can take to the market and it will earn the company money?
Well, first of all, I think everybody should take a look at the Cogent founder's video online about dumb pipes. Take a look at that, where he comes from. It's a 40-minute session where he talks about infrastructure. And if we start there and move upwards, and I totally agree with you, Donna, this is not a technical issue. But on the other side, on the hardware and software and all that stuff, the development and the pricing on firewalls with these stupid boxes with their own operating system and all that stuff had gone into the virtual world is 1/10 of the price. So again, the development where I was young, where Sun Microsystems had 99.8% of the telco market, and then suddenly there was an Intel machine came in 10 times as fast to 1/10 of the price. So again, one thing is development on hardware and all that stuff. And the other thing that I'm looking really into is how do we use knowledge? And I hate the word AI, but this is about machine learning and how do we learn? And coming from the telco industry where there's big numbers, many devices, large networks to the cost of zero, we know how to look into and how to build. So again, I don't agree with you that this is problems. This is nice challenges. And again, I love stuff like this. And the thing is, we need to explain in a manner that is understandable. And I think I've cut that. My audience or my customers are non-tech. They're only into one thing. How do they compete now with after COVID-19, where everybody has moved home? How the hell do you get people back in the office? How do they get their customers to actually continue to lease thousands of square meters of space when they suddenly, well, do we need this? Okay, how do we add that? And that's not only furniture and plants and all that stuff. And I think this is about connectivity and secure connectivity, running your business in a different fashion. I don't know the answer on how they're going to work, but one thing I know is that my customers are willing to pay for having this kind of services to their real estate to make a difference. Because again, we're entering a world where it's really, really hard. And it's like Frederico was saying, we don't want a security operations center. No way. But a way to actually do it is get some of these old timers that understand what the hell to look for and get some of these younger students in and say, hey, this is what you're looking for. And everything should be read on a screen in a security operations center. Don't invite the management in there because they want everything green. Then suddenly something is wrong. So again, it is about how do you play together and how do you develop this? And I think the world is working on different sides and looking at infrastructure in countries. In Norway, we are into three things. We produce oil and gas, which is bad. We're getting rid of that. We're looking into offshore windmills and all kinds of stuff like that. And we're into fish. All these are very important infrastructure-based industries in Norway. This is what we live on. Suddenly we see attacks on this kind of infrastructure because some idiots want to connect this online, and not everything needs to be connected on the internet. That is my purpose. And when I do conferences around, I say, hey, and I've done this for 25 years, saying, why do everything has to be on an IP somewhere? But nobody listens. So again, but there is, into this audience, there's some help here from governments because we've seen countries going down. Mm-hmm. And the tools that are used are DDoS. So they hit the natural points to where take out. And I discovered some years back, this is not DDoS as such, but it's content hitting one of my largest customers. When I used to work in this ISP, there's a skiing event in Europe called Tour de Ski. It went online some years ago, and the NRK national TV, they bought a service from Akamai that was suddenly placed in our backyard. And when this hit, you know, when the Olympics in skiing, Norway takes the 10 first medals every year. So it's a national, so we're idiots. But the city of Oslo actually went down due to 30 gigs of traffic coming in through these Akamai. I said, what the hell? And my customers hadn't bought this, and Akamai was not a customer of mine. So I turned down the service, I shut it off. And then suddenly everything worked. Again, it is making the decisions and looking at what kind of traffic is hitting and what is your core. And I think this is more than 10 years ago. And again, from there into the audience that I think we now are able to talk to. And I think a lot of the senior management, and especially like our Icelandic friend here talked about earlier about the board of these different companies were actually responsible. And what we have to do in this industry, like any other, is to help explain what the hell are we talking about? What is DDoS? And looking at some of these presentations around, I don't even understand what it is. So again, we have to be better in the product department together with your marketing guys and I, get some people in that can explain this for everybody. What is it? What is it? What is the danger? And of course, we have to do something about the price model, but I don't think it's that expensive. And it's back to burst rates on what we buy on capacities. You know, okay, let's say I buy 100 gigs. I always will have a burst rate on this that I can use. And talking to the global operators again, instead of having a fixed 100 gig or whatever pipe, let's say I have a flexible kind of deal. So saying, okay, because these backbone drivers, they can, you know, do terabits of capacity. So when this hits, this is like talking and having measures that say, okay, something is wrong here, something is coming, and then being able to react actually. And that's what you're doing. But again, I am back to this smaller communities of operators, and I'm sure everybody's listening here. A lot of us, we know each other. And again, sitting it down saying, okay, how can we do this? And maybe not all need to have your software or service, Donnie, but maybe we can place it one place, because internet, what is internet? It's actually a connection of all kinds of networks around. So again, cross-border, we have the EU, we have the UN, we have all these working together. Why not start looking at how the hell can we work outside the over-the-top providers, because they work together. If you go to these large conferences, who are sitting in the bars and talking to each other? You know, it's me and them.
Yeah.
So again, and again, the cost that we're looking at, I don't know the cost of your product yet, but looking at what I play to the GAY, and we play with Palo Alto Networks, and we're both a cloud service partner and a service provider partner with them. Looking at how this product was first developed is meant for companies like mine.
Yeah, I'll get to the cost bit a bit. Yeah, I wanted to, we're coming to the end of I wanted to have some time back first, but I wanted to get back to Vadi first, because we still haven't answered the question about cost. How you mentioned about cost just now, I think this is going to be a big part of everybody's consideration. How do you intend to manage the cost better?
I think, Danny, and thank you very much for a very structured approach to the cost model. I think you kind of phrased it in a very nice way. It's the technology cost, and this is a cost that operators have to invest in. I mean, they just to protect their own network. So this is unavoidable cost, but this is technology cost, like all kinds of investments that operators do. That's what we do. We invest in technology cost. Then it's the infrastructure cost, and here we can kind of play a little bit with the type. It's very uncommon that we have DDoS on all our customers at the same time. Right? We can play a little bit of an insurance game here. So we can accumulate our traffics and assume that we will not fill all the big pipes at the same time. It might happen, but usually not. It's usually focused at certain enterprises. So this is a cost that we as operators can manage. Then it's the specialist cost. It's the kind of designing the right solution for the right customer and so forth. That's a more delicate matter and more tricky matter, because that means we have to either custom design a solution for our customer, that's tricky, or partner with companies such as yourself to have it off the shelf ready to kind of plug it in. And I believe that when the student is ready, the student being our enterprise customers, the teacher will show up. We are the teachers. So if we can invest in our network, so we can kind of in a scalable manner present a security solutions to our customer pool that's up and ready to actually go, and we can sell it on a per subscription basis, then we can take it to our customer base. And then coming to what Björn was saying, and also educating our sales force, focus on the decision makers, because this is not really a low-level IT matter anymore, because the infrastructure has developed. Everything is in a digital world. This is discussed at the top-level executive meetings. Focus the sales pitch on them, and then it becomes an assurance sales. And are the enterprises willing to risk their fish farming business or not? And then it becomes an easy answer. No, you will always invest in this to protect the fish farming business, because we have invested so much in the digital world. So that's, I believe, how we as operators should be approaching this.
Okay, thank you, Buddy, for your input. I think this everything has panned out really well, because why I say this is because we have come to the end of the sharing, so very limited time. But I think what it ties down to, what has been valuable for me is beyond Frederico and Buddy has brought up a few points that I believe over the years NexusGuard has focused on building our solution, the pains and the problems, including the cost, including the difficulties, including the manpower issues, into this solution we call the Transformation Alliance Program from NexusGuard. So I would like to share a screen right now. It wouldn't be long, so bear with me. Just going to be a couple of slides. Basically is to share, after what we've heard, okay, what really is our value proposition over here. Johnny, can I do a share screen? I'm not able to do a share screen. If you can enable that for me, please. Johnny or Shruti? Okay, there you go. Thank you. So if you're able to see the screen. So at NexusGuard, so our mission is to make DDoS protection simple for CSPs. So recently we've launched a program in which what we call the TAP 100 program. We are actually going out to the market, and our vision is to enable 100 CSPs, provide them with the technical capabilities and the full capabilities to deliver DDoS protection as a service to the customers. So in this 1 hour session, we talked about all the risks. We talk about all the challenges, and Bjorn would put it as an opportunity, which I totally agree, of how we actually deliver these solutions to your customers. So as an engineer from an engineering team, whenever you have to buy an appliance, there is a budgeting process, okay? There is a risk. From a product perspective, you have no budget, okay? But you have a objective to get more revenue, to get more products. So the TAP offering of NexusGuard has 3 metrics of 3 promises. Okay, we promise you a 0 capex to begin your DDoS journey. Okay, we take away the risk because it is 100% risk-free financial, because there is no financial upfront investment. Okay, there's no commitment from a financial perspective. And then from the end to end, regards to irrespective of all the challenges that we have mentioned earlier, okay, we have an implementation timeline of 90 days, okay, from start to end. So the promise is within 90 days, okay, we are able to deliver, you are able to deliver your very own branded solutions to your customers. And I'm going to cover how we do that. So when we talk about 0 capital expenditure, we talked about the cost of technology. So NexusGuard, although we are not an appliance manufacturer, so NexusGuard has been creating and building scrubbing centers for our own cloud network for more than 10 years. So we are experienced in building scrubbing centers. and our software and technology is totally proprietary. So what we are able to do is we work with a hardware manufacturer, okay, such as a Dell. You see a Dell chassis over there. Basically, what happens is we deliver to you the chassis loaded with the NexusGuard platform, okay, which will be inserted into your platform. So much like you would be buying an appliance from any existing vendor. So instead of buying an existing vendor product solution, you get a NexusGuard managed DDoS mitigation platform. This is CAPEX free, and it is not free because it's free of charge, it's totally zero cost. It is just that our innovative business model has made it a scale as you grow. Okay, as you continue to use the machine, as you continue to generate revenue for yourself, then you start to pay for the box. So that's a very innovative model. So what this means is, okay, we've already built in immediate return on investments mechanism into the platform. So with this technology built into the platform, you can now start to, one, Federico said, protect your infrastructure. That is the underlying capability of that platform that we install in the network. The second piece is we have now fully productized a series of solutions, including DDoS protection, including CDN, including WAF services, including load balancing, DNS protection, DNS proxies, and other kinds of cybersecurity services that can be immediately delivered to your end customers, complete with their own dashboards, single pane glass dashboard, including reporting, including finance, billing, etc. Everything has been pre-productized. All you have to do is to slap on your own colors, your own logos, and then you will be up to delivering your own Far Eyes DDoS protection service with a Far Eyes platform, with a Far Eyes dashboard. Okay, so your customers will be interfacing directly with the Far Eyes customer service, and then NexusGuard will be behind protecting the service for you. So this can straight away be delivered. There's no longer any further productization, okay, which I'll be talking to you about. So we will extend that coverage to go to market. So we've been selling services for the past 10, 15 years. Okay, we already have the big data. We already have the marketing collaterals. We already have the thought leaderships. All this go-to-market support is pre-packaged into a kit that we actually deliver to our partners. So if a product team requires, collateral support, your marketing teams requires content support, everything is packaged. Okay, training. Your sales team requires training. Your pre-sales team requires training. How do I solution a product? How do we address the different markets? How do we segment the markets? How do we price for different markets? Everything is done for our partners. So everything will be delivered by a partner support team. Operations, we talked about one of the main costs is to build a SOC. Okay, so every ISP has a NOC, a network operating center. But what about engineers that understand security? So we have that covered. So we have a NexusGuard Academy that basically we create, because in our course of building these scrubbing centers, we train our guys leave. So we have, in order to manage churn and of course to increase value for our partners, we have a structured unit called the NexusGuard Academy, basically offering training courses to train tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 SOCs. Okay, in a very customized, in a very structured manner, online training as well as video training and all the exercises. So we extend this training to our partners as well. So you can take care of all the training for your SOC guys, even if there is turnover, even if your team changes totally, okay, we will help you train the SOC team, okay, with respect to the DDoS technology. So we cover all the operational requirements, okay, we even offer, escalation procedures, best practices, processes, how you will actually support the customers, even the email response scripts and stuff like down to the nitty-gritty details. We have all it covered. Because basically this is what we actually do on a day-to-day basis, because our beginnings were delivering DDoS protection services to our customers. It's just that now we are taking all those experiences and sharing it with our partners, because to us, our partners' success is our success. And that's really our business model. Going in to every ISP, okay, to each ISPs, customizing the services for the local market so that our partners get the credit. They are the ones that is having the final relationship with the customers. You take our technology, you take our know-how. With our support, we will make the product work, and then you will get the revenue. And then with your success is our success. So that is pretty much, in a nutshell, what the NexusGuard TAP program is about. I will not go too much into details. And I think if you have any interest in our products, I will definitely be continue our conversations with Bjorn and Farai and Buddy and Federico. But if any of the audience is interested in this program, okay, you can actually reach out, okay, to the link that is going to be sent to you via email. And of course, we have your contacts if you have submitted for the lucky draw to win an iPad. If you haven't done so, please do so. Don't miss out on the chance of winning an iPad. And okay, so I would like to stop share here. And I think before I pass it back to Johnny, I would like to thank everyone today for attending this session. Thank Bjorn from Norway. Thank you from Portugal, Federico, and then from Iceland, Vadi. Thank you for sharing your wonderful insights. I've had a great time hearing from you, and thank you very much. I pass it back to Johnny.
Brilliant. Thanks, Donny. And of course, as well, thanks also to Bjorn, Vadi, and Federico for a really interesting discussion. The recording of the panel will be available on demand via the Telecoms World Asia website for anyone that signed in late. And if you'd obviously, again, as Donny said, if you'd like to find out more about NexusGuard, you can, of course, go to their website at nexusguard.com, or alternatively, I'm sure Donny would be happy to discuss if you reach out to him direct. And of course, thanks again to all of the panelists. I hope you've enjoyed the panel today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Federico. Thank you, Vadi.